over the next several videos, we're going to talk about computer decision structures, how a computer makes a decision. To illustrate this, we're going to write a program called gear. What gear is going to do is it's going to take a location and a speed, and it's going to return to the user what gear he or she would need if she was traveling in that location or speed. So for example, let's suppose I say air and 33 miles an hour. Okay, so you're in the air and you're traveling 33 miles an hour. Well, you would just say, okay, if I'm in the air, it's not space, so that's not true. So I'm not going to be traveling in space, don't care about that. But I am in the air, so this is what I'm actually interested in. Now I'm traveling 33 miles an hour, so that's not 0 to 10. This isn't true, so I'm not going to look at that, don't care about that. I'm not traveling 11 to 30, don't care about that either. But look at me, 33 is between 31 and 100. So the gear I would need is a prop plane. That's what I would need if I were in the air traveling 33 miles an hour. So the question is, how do you make a computer do this? How do you make a computer give you that information? And that's what we're going to be looking at, as I said, over the next several recordings. Before we get started, I want to show you, actually I guess we already did, I want to show you a couple lines of code that we have. The first line of code is at line 1. Notice this is just an import statement, and this just says that this is what's going to be used for our dialog box, which we'll use a little bit later. Line 3 to 25, this is just our key for our location, so we can go back and refer to that to tell what gear we would need in the different locations that we have. 27 is just your class file. 28, of course, is your main method, and then down at the bottom we've got 49 and 50, which close those two out. So we want to pay attention to these things right here. Okay, I gave you a couple declarations, actually 4 of them. 2 of the declarations are string data types, so string where and string gear. Those are your two data type, or your 2 string data types. I've also given you at 31 an integer called int speed, and int speed is just how fast you're going to be traveling. The third one, that's our interesting one. We'll be looking at this in a couple videos down the road here. That's Boolean, and what a Boolean is it's a true or false. Okay, that's Boolean evaluates either true or false, and those are the only two values that it can hold, a true or false. So we're going to start working with Booleans in this chapter. Okay, so there's the data types that I've given you. Oh, at 36, I've also given you an int speed where we're going to actually assign that from user input. That's going to use the J option pane that we've done. So we'll grab the int speed so we can actually use robust data from the user. But here, 39 to 41, this is our interesting piece of code right here, and this is what we really want to focus on in this video. This is your if statement, and how an if statement works, how it's designed, is you have the keyword if. So there's your if, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, open curly bracket, close curly bracket, okay? That is your if statement. And your if statement just says anything between this bracket and this bracket belongs to the if statement, and this is the code right here, sys.out.println. This is the code that you will run if what's between these parentheses is true. And that's the big idea. What is true inside these parentheses? Inside these parentheses, you have what's called your condition. This is the condition that the program has to check. The computer wants to look if it's true. So if we look right now, if I go ahead and if I compile, we're going to get an error. And the reason we have an error is because we don't have a condition. There's nothing there for the computer to check to be either true or false. Okay, nothing in there, error. So we've got to give the computer a condition to look at. So the condition I'm going to look at is 100 greater than 1. There's a condition. Okay? The computer doesn't care about what condition is in there. What it does care about is how does it evaluate? Does it evaluate as true or false? Okay, so here's your big idea. If this is true, which this one is, if this is true, execute the code between these 2 brackets, which is the code on line 40. If this is false, here's the big idea. If this is false, skip any code between the 2 curly brackets. Get out of the if. This is not a true statement. Do not execute this code. So whenever we press compile, and then we're going to go ahead and run the code, and you're going to see this is true out of if. Where'd this out of if come from? We'll take a look at that. So first, we come into our program, we say, okay, at line number 39, if 100 is greater than 1, this is a true statement. If true, again, it doesn't care about the condition, it cares about the result. Is it true or false? If true, execute this code right here. And there's the code that it executed. Once we're done, we're going to leave, go to line 42, and begin executing code till the end of the program, and there's your out of if statement. It's actually the very last line of the program at 48. And so there's your out of if. Okay, so in your if statement, we have your if, condition, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Separating the condition, you have what's called the relational operator, okay? The relational operator is either greater than, it can be less than, it can be equals, it can be less than equals, greater than equals, not all at one time, of course, because this would be an error. So these are your conditions that you can look at. There's also a not condition, which we'll discuss later. So in your conditions right now, we've got the condition if 100 is greater than 1, or as a computer is going to read this, if true. If true, execute this code. Okay, so what if this isn't true? Well, we're going to say if 100 is greater than 1,000. Well, there, now it is a false statement. So if we compile, and we're going to execute this code again, we're going to go ahead and click run. And notice we no longer have the this is true statement. It just says out of if. Well, why does it say out of if? Because if, zoom up in on this, right there, if false, this is false, skip all the code. It doesn't even get to this bracket right here. It just jumps straight down to line 41, this closing bracket. It says begin your code at 42. Start executing code at 42, and there's your out of if. This out of if is going to run no matter what because it is not part of your decision structure. It is not part of your if statement. Okay, and just a really quick review, we've got the if, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and a condition goes between those parentheses. The condition is evaluated by a relational operator and is evaluates as either true or false. If it's true, execute the code between the curly brackets. You can have as many lines of code in these curly brackets as you want to. Ours only has one, but you can have your entire program can be inside curly brackets. If you want to open it up with an if statement, that's fine. It doesn't care how many lines of code are between the curly brackets. As long as this condition is true, this code will run. If this condition is false, then it skips outside of the last curly bracket, begins code execution after this closing curly bracket. And that's it. That is the beginning of an if-then statement or a computer decision structure.